The war zone was supposed to be loud, full of explosions, and filled with fire. But on that day, the entire battlefield was silent. No one knew why. No one understood what was coming. But everyone felt it. A strange pressure in the air, like the whole galaxy was holding its breath. Dozens of alien fleets were gathered across the empty space. Warships from every corner of the galaxy stood ready for battle. Cannons were charged, shields were raised, engines were heated. The Galactic Coalition expected a long fight, probably lasting weeks. But something was wrong. Their enemy was nowhere to be seen. Commander Relos, a young officer from the Varnak species, stared at the holographic map in confusion. His long blue fingers tapped the console again and again, trying to refresh the radar. But the same message kept appearing. No signal from enemy side. Relos felt a cold wave of fear run through him. Their ships cannot hide like this, he whispered. His crew looked at him nervously. Everyone knew that if an enemy disappears this completely, it usually means only one thing. Something worse than war is coming. Rumors had been spreading for weeks. Strange stories, whispered in dark corridors and quiet mess halls. Stories about humanity. Stories that many believed were only legends. But legends often start with truth. Some soldiers claimed they had seen a human scout ship at the edge of the galaxy. Others said humans had built weapons that no one could detect. A few even said humans had vanished for 30 years because they were preparing something powerful. Something no one could imagine. Relos never believed those stories. Not until today. Not until the battlefield fell into unnatural silence. Not until the air itself felt heavy, like something giant was waking up. The coalition's senior commanders argued across communication channels. Some believed the enemy was trying to trick them. Others said the battle was already lost before it began. One terrified admiral even ordered his ships to retreat. But the moment they tried to move, all their engines failed at the same time. A strange energy wave swept through the war zone. Every ship shook as if the space around them was changing shape. All screens went black for exactly 2 seconds. Then restarted on their own. And the radar began blinking violently. Relos leaned forward. He felt his heart pounding hard. Every beeping sound from the radar felt like another warning. The display flashed red. A massive signal appeared, far larger than any ship. The computer struggled to measure it. Then displayed a terrifying message. Unknown object, size, beyond calculations. Silence swallowed the entire command bridge. No one spoke. No one moved. Everyone stared at the same impossible reading. It cannot be real, one officer whispered. But it was real. And it was getting closer. The enemy didn't attack. The enemy didn't show themselves. Because the enemy was not the threat today. Something else was coming. Something bigger. Something ancient. Something that frightened even the bravest soldiers. Suddenly, a bright tear appeared in space. Like a giant wound opening across the darkness. Space bent and twisted, forming a swirling vortex of light. The tear expanded, glowing brighter. The battlefield shook violently as shockwaves rippled across it. Every ship trembled as if reality itself was being pulled apart. Officers grabbed onto their desks. Soldiers fell to the floor. Alarms screamed everywhere. Relos stared at the vortex with wide eyes. "What is this?" he whispered. His voice was shaking. His entire crew was frozen, unable to understand what they were seeing. Then the vortex stopped growing. It stabilized. The swirling lights calmed into a quiet, deadly circle. A perfect door made of glowing white energy. A hyperspace gate. But unlike any gate seen before. This one was enormous. Large enough to let a planet pass through. Then, the first shadow emerged. A gigantic silhouette slowly moved out of the glowing gate. A dark, silent ship made of black metal and sharp angles. Its size was beyond imagination. It dwarfed every other vessel in the war zone. More shadows followed it. Another ship, even larger. Then another. And another. Until the entire horizon was filled with shapes. The crew finally recognized the design. The long hull. The red markings. The triangular formation. The cold, perfect silence. Every soldier in the galaxy knew those shapes. Because they had seen them in old war records. In secret archives. In nightmares told by veterans. It was the Human Armada. Thousands of ships, emerging from the vortex in perfect formation. Not a single ship drifted out of place. Not a single engine flickered. They moved like one living creature. Silent, deadly, unstoppable. The entire battlefield froze. Even the stars seemed to stop moving. The coalition soldiers felt their courage melt away. Some officers dropped to their knees. Others backed away from their consoles in fear. One whispered. "They are back. Humans are back." The Human Armada did not fire a single shot. They did not broadcast any message. They simply existed. And that alone was enough to make entire armies collapse in fear. Relos felt tears gather in his eyes. Not from sadness. But from pure, overwhelming shock. The legends were real. The warnings were true. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy would never be the same again. For several minutes, no one in the war zone dared to breathe. The Human Armada floated silently, like a giant shadow covering the stars. No weapons fired. No engines hummed. No signals came from their ships. Only silence. A silence so heavy that it felt like it was crushing every alien heart in the war zone. Commander Relos stood frozen at his console. His blue skin was pale, his hands shaking. He felt like his entire soul was trying to escape his body. He had heard stories about humans. But stories were nothing compared to this. This was real. This was terrifying. His communications officer whispered softly. "Commander, what do we do?" Relos didn't answer. He couldn't. His mind was still trying to understand why humans were here. Why they returned after 30 years of silence. Why their arrival felt like a final warning from the universe itself. Somewhere across the battlefield, a small alien ship tried to power up its engines. But the engines instantly shut down again. A strange invisible pressure surrounded the war zone. A human tech, gravity suppression. One of their feared weapons. It allowed them to trap entire fleets without firing a single shot. Relos swallowed hard. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "Humans, they are not preparing for war." He paused, staring at the enormous human flagship, a ship so massive it looked like a floating mountain. "They are here to end it." Everyone on his command bridge stared at him in confusion. End the war. But how? Without firing. Without speaking. Without even showing their faces. Relos knew the answer. It came from the ancient stories he studied. Stories about battles humanity fought centuries ago. Back then, humans were not the strongest. They were not the oldest. They were not even the most advanced species. But they were something far more dangerous. They were determined. They were unbreakable. They were unpredictable. And in war, unpredictability is fear. He remembered a legend from his academy days. A story where a single human destroyer defeated 20 alien cruisers. Not because of superior firepower. But because the human crew refused to surrender even when doomed. The story said the human captain told his crew. "We don't give up, we break through." Those words became feared across the galaxy. Because no other species fought like that. Relos turned to his officers. You fear humans because of their weapons, he said quietly. But the galaxy fears them because of their will. His officers exchanged nervous glances. For a moment, no one spoke. Then one asked. Commander, what do they want now? Before Relos could answer, the radar screen blinked again. Not a threat. Not a weapon. But a communication signal from the human flagship. A single line. A single message. A single voice, calm and emotionless. Stand down. The moment the message ended, several alien commanders fainted. Others started shaking. Some whispered prayers to their gods. Because they remembered what came after that message in history. Whenever humans said, stand down, it meant only two things. Peace. Or annihilation. Commander, the officer beside Relos said in a trembling voice. They want us to stop fighting. Relos nodded slowly, his throat dry. Yes, because they do not want to destroy us. He stared at the silent human ships. They are giving us a chance. Across the battlefield, thousands of alien ships began lowering their shields. Weapons powered down. Engines stopped humming. An entire armada surrendering without a single shot fired. But not everyone accepted defeat. One faction, known as the Corn Dominion, refused to surrender. Their commander was proud and arrogant. He believed humans were weak after decades of silence. He shouted on the coalition channels. They hide behind fear. They are cowards. Attack them. A few Corn ships broke formation and charged toward the human line. It was a foolish act. Relos felt his heart stop. The moment the Corn ships fired their weapons, the battlefield lit up with bright energy. But their shots, every single one, disappeared before reaching the human ships. The energy dissolved in mid-space. Like water hitting a flame. His sensors showed the truth. The humans had activated their energy nullification shields. A technology no one else could master. A shield that didn't block attacks. It erased them. The Corn ships trembled. Engines died. Weapons shut off. And the human flagship slowly turned its hull toward them. It didn't fire. It didn't lock weapons. It only looked. That alone was enough. The Corn commander screamed in fear and ordered an immediate retreat. But his ship wouldn't move. The human gravity field held it frozen in place. Relos whispered. They didn't even fight back, and still won. Now the entire galaxy understood. Humans did not return to start a war. They returned to finish it. But there was something deeper. Something hidden behind their silence. Something Relos felt deep in his bones. The humans weren't angry. They weren't seeking revenge. They weren't showing power. They were preparing. Preparing for something much worse. Something far beyond the war zone. Something the galaxy was not ready to face. And Relos realized with a shiver. The galaxy feared humanity. But humanity feared something else. For a long moment, the entire battlefield floated in silence. The human armada hung in the darkness like a wall of shadow. Thousands of black ships, perfectly still, perfectly silent, completely unreadable. It was like staring into a storm that had not yet decided who to destroy. Commander Relos felt his hands shaking again. Not from fear alone. But from something deeper. A feeling that the galaxy was standing at the edge of something massive. Something that could not be undone. His officers whispered behind him. Some cried quietly. Others simply stared at the human ships, as if looking at ancient gods returning from exile. No one dared to speak loudly. No one dared to move too fast. Even breathing felt dangerous. Because every alien on the battlefield believed the same thing. A single wrong action might trigger the end of everything. The human ships did not blink. Did not shift. Did not speak. Like they were waiting for someone to make a mistake. Then, without warning, the lights on the human flagship activated. A thin red line ran across its hull. Then another. Then thousands more. Bright red markings glowing in the darkness, forming patterns no alien could understand. Relos felt the hairs on his neck rise. "What are they doing?" he murmured. His voice shook so badly that the officer beside him looked away in pity. The radar beeped loudly. A new signal appeared. A signal unlike anything they had ever seen. Clear, powerful, precise. A human transmission. Relos took a deep breath. "Put it on the main screen," he said softly. Even speaking felt like touching fire. A moment later, the sound filled every ship in the war zone. A calm, steady human voice. A voice with no anger. No fear. No hatred. Just a quiet power. "Stand down." 2 words. That was all. But those 2 words crashed through the battlefield like a tidal wave. An entire alien army gasped at the same time. Thousands of ships shook as crew members stepped back in fear. Some dropped their weapons. Some fell into their chairs. Some covered their faces and cried. Relos felt cold all over. His heart raced. His legs trembled. He could not explain it. He could not understand it. But he felt the meaning behind those 2 human words. Humans were not asking for peace. They were not negotiating. They were not offering mercy. They were commanding the entire galaxy to stop. "Commander," one officer whispered. This is the voice they talked about in old recordings. The one that ended the Sarkin War without a single battle." Relos nodded weakly. "Yes, the voice of Admiral Leora Vale. A legend. A human commander so feared that entire species surrendered at the mention of her name." The voice returned once more. Calm, quiet, cold. "We do not seek war, but we will not warn twice." Relos felt the air leave his lungs. That sentence echoed through every ship like thunder. Every alien captain understood what those words meant. This was humanity's final warning. If anyone ignored it, the next moment would bring destruction no one could survive. Then the battlefield changed. Screens across thousands of ships flickered rapidly. Human data streams began to flow everywhere. Encrypted codes, red symbols, gravity maps. All displayed with perfect clarity. Humans were showing the galaxy something. A demonstration. A message. A promise. Relos stared in awe. These codes, they control the battlefield. His officers looked confused. "What does that mean?" Relos swallowed hard. "It means the humans already own this war zone." To prove it, the human flagship emitted a soft pulse of light. Barely visible. Barely noticeable. But the effect was instant. Every enemy weapon across the battlefield shut off. Every engine powered down. Every targeting system went blind. Without firing a single shot. Without activating a single weapon. The human armada disabled the entire alien forces. Relos's voice cracked as he whispered. This is not power. This is control." Many alien soldiers broke into panic. Some shouted. Some shook violently. Some begged their commanders to surrender before it was too late. One officer on Relos's bridge whispered. "They could destroy us in less than a second." Relos nodded slowly. "Yes, and we could not stop them, not even for one heartbeat." As if reading their fear, the human voice returned once more. "Lower your weapons." The command spread across the battlefield like fire. One by one, alien ships lowered their weapon systems. One by one, shields collapsed. One by one, entire fleets surrendered silently. Not because they wanted peace. Not because they trusted humans. But because they had no other choice. Resistance meant instant erasure. But then something strange happened. Something no one expected. The humans did not advance. They did not fire. They did not punish the Quorum ships who attacked earlier. They remained still. Silent. Watching. Waiting. Relos felt something change in the air. A shift. A realization. Humans were not here to conquer. They were not here for revenge. They were here because of something else. Something far away. Something dangerous. Something coming. Relos whispered softly. Humans didn't return because of us. They returned because they needed us to listen. Behind the human fleet, the gigantic hyperspace gate flickered. For a moment, Relos thought he saw something move inside it. Something huge. Something dark. Something alive. A chill crawled down his spine. Humans weren't warning the galaxy. Humans were preparing it. And that was far more terrifying than anything else. The war zone was no longer a battlefield. It had become a silent courtroom. And the human armada was the judge. Every alien ship, every commander, every soldier waited for the humans to speak again. The fear was so deep that even the stars felt dimmer. Even space seemed to hold its breath. Commander Relos watched his crew. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide, their hands trembling. They were trained warriors, but all of them looked like frightened children now. The silence of the human fleet was more terrifying than any weapon ever created. Across the battlefield, alien factions whispered in fear. Some argued about surrender. Some argued about mercy. Some argued about running away. But one truth united them all. No one wanted to be the first to anger the humans. A small ship on the far right of the battlefield blinked with white lights. It was a surrender signal. Then another ship blinked. And another. Until dozens of alien warships activated their surrender codes. Weapons powered down. Shields collapsed. Engines stopped. Relos felt a knot in his chest. This is no longer a war, this is survival, he whispered. Suddenly, the main communication screen lit up. A human face appeared. A woman with sharp eyes, dark hair tied back, and a calm expression. Her uniform had no decorations, no medals, no ranks. Just a simple emblem of Earth on her chest. Admiral Leora Vale. The ghost of a legend. The woman who ended wars with a single sentence. Her eyes moved slowly across the screen. As if she could see every alien in the war zone. As if she could see through their ships, their shields, even their souls. When she spoke, her voice was calm. Soft. Controlled. But stronger than any weapon in the galaxy. There will be no more fighting. The war zone froze. Even breathing stopped. Some alien commanders bowed their heads instinctively. Others stood rigid with fear. A few simply collapsed where they stood. Admiral Vale continued. You threatened a neutral world. You broke the ancient accords. Earth does not ignore such things. Relos felt the words cut through the silence like a blade. He knew which world she meant. The small planet of Ilara 9. A peaceful planet with no military. The coalition planned to use it as a forward base. They thought humans would not care. But humans cared about things no one else understood. They cared about the weak. They cared about the innocent. And above all, they cared about justice. The human admiral raised her hand slightly. Instantly, the human fleet activated faint blue lines under their hulls. Not weapons. Not shields. But something else entirely. Relos stared at the readings. His eyes widened. This is impossible, he whispered. The human fleet didn't just detect every alien ship. They scanned their engines, their weapons, their crew counts, their shield frequencies, their energy outputs, their escape routes. Humans knew everything. Every weakness. Every strength. Every secret. The war zone was no longer controlled by the Coalition. It was controlled by Earth. Completely. Absolutely. With perfect precision. The Admiral spoke again. You will surrender your weapons. Across the battlefield, alien ships responded instantly. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. Weapons began dropping out of ships like metal rain. Missile bays opened and released empty shells. Turrets detached and floated into space. Power cores shut down in perfect synchronization. The galaxy had never seen such a surrender. Not in thousands of years. Relos couldn't stop staring. He whispered. They didn't fire once, but they won everything. The Admiral's expression softened. But her voice stayed firm. Earth is not your enemy. We are your warning. Those words struck Relos harder than any weapon. Warning. Warning of what? Why did humans return now? What did they know? What did they fear? The Admiral continued. Something is coming from beyond your borders. Something you are not prepared to face. The war zone shook. Not from weapons, but from the weight of her words. Aliens looked at each other in confusion. Fear. Doubt. They had fought many enemies. But this felt different. This felt like the humans knew something the galaxy did not. Relos stepped closer to the screen, unable to control himself. Admiral Vale, he whispered. What is coming? For the first time since her arrival, Admiral Vale paused. Her eyes grew colder. Darker. Like she was remembering something painful. Something terrible. We will explain when the time comes, she said quietly. For now, you will listen. Or you will fall, asterisk asterisk. Her words struck the heart of every commander in the galaxy. Some began trembling. Some fell to their knees. Some simply stared in shock. One by one, alien leaders activated their universal surrender codes. Their voices shaky and desperate. We surrender to Earth. We submit to human command. We request protection. The galaxy, once proud and powerful, now kneeled before the humans. Not because they were defeated. Not because they were conquered. But because they finally understood the truth. Humans had returned. Not as invaders. Not as rulers. But as the only shield between the galaxy and something far, far worse. And Relos felt it in his bones. The real war had not even begun. The war zone that once prepared for destruction now floated in complete silence. The alien fleets had surrendered. Weapons were dropped. Engines were disabled. Hope and fear mixed in every heart. But the humans still did not move. Their ships remained frozen in formation. Perfect, silent, powerful. Like statues of war carved from the darkness of space. Commander Relos could not calm his racing heart. He kept staring at the human flagship. A colossal ship larger than mountains. A ship that could erase cities with a whisper. But somehow, Relos knew the humans were not here to destroy. They were here because something else was coming. Admiral Leora Vale appeared again on the communication screen. Her calm eyes scanned the alien commanders who had surrendered. Her voice was steady. Controlled. Cold as steel but warm enough to carry understanding. The galaxy believes we returned because of your war, she said. But that is not the reason. Relos's breath caught. He leaned forward. What reason? He whispered. Admiral Vale looked away for a moment. As if remembering something painful. Something heavy. Something too big to explain in one sentence. We returned because we sensed a signal, she said quietly. A signal from outside your borders. A threat older than your civilizations. Several alien commanders gasped. They looked at one another in confusion and fear. Outside our borders, one asked. What could possibly? The admiral raised her hand. Silencing everyone instantly. Behind her, the human flagship's holoprojector activated. A massive image filled the screen. A map of the galaxy. A map showing a dark region far beyond known space. A place labeled only as Zone Null. Rilos felt a strange coldness fill his chest. He had seen this region only in forbidden data. A place where ships vanished. Where signals died. Where light itself acted strangely. What lives there? Rilos whispered. Admiral Vale's eyes hardened. Her voice dropped to a chilling tone. Not what? Who? The screen zoomed deeper into the dark region. At first it looked empty. Then something vast began to take shape. Not a planet. Not a fleet. Not even a creature. But a shadow. A living shadow stretching across entire star systems. A presence. Silent, ancient, and hungry. Every alien officer stepped back in terror. Some shouted. Some covered their mouths. One fainted on the spot. What is that? Rilos whispered. His voice shaking uncontrollably. The admiral answered with a single word. A name that shook every heart in the battlefield. The Devourers. Rilos felt his knees weaken. He grabbed the console to keep from falling. He had heard the name only once. In a classified archive during training. A race that wiped out entire galaxies. A race that fed on stars. A race that left nothing alive. They were defeated long ago, one alien admiral shouted desperately. That's impossible. Admiral Vale shook her head. No. They were delayed. Not destroyed. She stepped closer to the screen. For 30 years, Earth has been fighting them alone. Rilos's breath froze in his chest. Alone. Humanity had fought this nightmare alone. And survived. No wonder they disappeared. No wonder they grew stronger. No wonder they returned with silence and shadows. The admiral continued. We kept the fight at the edge of the galaxy. We kept your world safe. We did not ask for help. We did not ask for thanks. Her eyes hardened. But now, the Devourers are moving again. A heartbeat of silence filled the war zone. Then the admiral spoke the words that changed everything. We cannot hold the line alone anymore. For the first time since the human arrival. Rilos saw something new in her eyes. Not anger. Not pride. Not domination. But exhaustion. The exhaustion of a species that had fought too long in the darkness. Rilos whispered. You came, to warn us. The admiral nodded slowly. And to unite you. A new message appeared on every screen across the battlefield. A single symbol. The emblem of Earth. Below it, a sentence. A promise. A command. A warning. Prepare. The real war is coming. Suddenly, the gigantic hyperspace gate behind the human fleet flickered again. Rilos gasped. Something massive moved inside the swirling light. Something bigger than a battleship. Something alive. Something watching. The humans turned their ships toward the gate. Their dark hulls glowing with blue and red lines. Their engines burning with silent power. They were ready. Ready for another battle. Ready for a war the galaxy had never imagined. Admiral Vale's voice echoed across the warzone one last time. Stand with Earth. Or fall alone. And with that final sentence, the human armada moved forward. Silent, unstoppable. Marching toward the darkness. Toward the devourers. Toward the true enemy. Relos watched them go. His heart racing. For the first time in his life. He prayed. Not for his own people. Not for revenge. Not for victory. But for humanity. The one species brave enough to fight the darkness. The one species strong enough to stand in its way. The one species the galaxy both feared and needed. And he whispered softly. May Earth win, or we all die.